Welcome to another Hope, Power, in Healthcare with Chris Hemphill and
Melissa Reilly, fresh off the relaxing Berkshire's Brain Summit. Don't I look so
Bert.
relaxed?
100%. Talk to what is Berkshire's Brain Summit?
What? Okay, so I'm just busting to talk about this. So shout out to my friend Danish, who is one of the founders of the mental health venture fund Gray Matter, who invited me to this really amazing retreat slash summit on brain health that he threw in combination with D44 Ventures. Shout out to them as well. So Chris, it felt like, did you ever watch the show Nine Perfect Strangers
No.
on Hulu? It's like Nicole Kidman as this beautiful Russian goddess cult leader. So you
You had me at
roll.
Goddess Cult Leader. I'm watching this thing.
So we roll up into the Berkshires, which are in Connecticut, another thing I didn't totally realize, and I live in Connecticut. So it's like on the corner of Connecticut and Massachusetts at this beautiful resort called The Time, which used to be an autism training facility for parents and their children. And so a group of really motivated uh, ex finance, ex venture partners got together to turn The Time into this beautiful wellness retreat with sound and nature hikes and a sweat lodge. And the Gray Matter D44 team used this for like a 3-day event on AI, brain health, and the future of technology. And Chris, I'm just telling you, I got to control a video game with my brain. It was so cool. And I met the founder of Muse, the meditation headband, which was amazing. Shout out to Ariel. I loved hearing her
Are there
founder
pictures of you,
story.
is there pictures or anything like that of you
Oh,
controlling the video?
yes.
What?
Yes. Okay.
Let's
So I
roll
will.
those. Let's roll those
Okay.
if we can.
Totally. So I'll show you those pictures. So Steve had me like totally ready to steal this iPad and bring it home to my children. Like I was drinking wine and I still couldn't stop playing this video game. It was great.
What?
Yeah, it was so cool. And then ended up with uh, 20 of us in a sweat lodge, right? With a full on experience, like 2 hours of sweating it out. I thought I was going to die, Chris. And thankful
A
again
sweat.
to,
So you're
go
that's
ahead.
like a big sauna.
I have a picture of this too. So it's like a wooden room and they roll in hot stones, like in different rounds. So you do 4 rounds, although at the beginning we didn't know there were 4 rounds of sweating it out. And like, I've been saunaing at home. So I was like totally thinking I was going to be this badass and I could handle it. And I'm sitting in there praying, I hope this ends soon. And next to these like world famous psychiatrists who are like really into the experience and I loved it for them. And I'm just going, man, I hope I don't pass out and die.
Oh my gosh. So you're in the room with these like industry players and movers and shakers and stuff like that, and everybody's like just sweating it out
In their
at the
bathing
same time, kind
suits,
of
in their
feeling the
bathing,
same feeling.
yes, in their bathing suits. And so I texted a friend of mine ahead of the event, my friend Judy. Shout out to Judy, she's amazing. And I'm going, Judy, what does one wear to a sweat lodge with their industry colleagues? Like what bathing suits are we putting on for this event? But by, round two, I couldn't have cared what I looked like. I was like, dear Lord, please let me survive and get wait for this round to be over.
Well, you've been doing some like we're talking like cybernetic, cyberpunk type stuff. Like that's super freaking cool. Can you give us a little bit of a glimpse of what you might be excited about in this little future perspective that you were able to touch on today? This week,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah. Again, like it's another event under Chatham House rules, so I'm not going to attribute like
Ah, yeah, yeah.
what was said to any specific human. But there's like a lot of things that I'm really excited about. Chris, you and I were debriefing like ahead of the show. I think those that are like on the forefront of innovation and I'm hearing this consistently, are really working to agentify themselves across the board, right? And so I think they're looking at their whole business processes and they're saying, where can I move agents in? When I look at myself from more of like a ex-payer lens, I'm a little bit more skeptical because I think there is like other regulations and policies that prevent the full agentification. But these other companies are doing a really good job. And I know you are too. You're helping companies bring agents across the workflow. And that's lowering their cost of goods. And so, I had a little bit of anxiety going, am I agentifying Melissa enough? And, one of my founders was super cute. And he was like, you need to make a Melissa agent and just sell that. And I was, at first I was like, that's a weird idea. Like, don't they want the real me? They don't want the agent Melissa, right? Chris, I mean, do you want to do the podcast with agent Melissa? But more and more, I'm like, that wasn't a bad idea.
Well, we could write out all our thoughts and put them in Notebook LM and publish it that way, but I
Let's
don't
do
think that
that.
people.
Yeah,
Yeah,
let's
yeah.
we'll do
Sorry,
the
y'all.
Chris
We're
and
hanging it up. It's over. It's
yeah. We could totally A/B test this. We'll do the real Chris and Melissa, and then we'll just have our agents talk to each other, and we'll see who likes whose podcast better.
I'm not ready for that level of sadness if
I,
they like the
Yeah,
if
or if you and I don't actually get to spend this time together, that was my whole point, right? Like there's
yeah.
do I want my agent Melissa talking to agent Chris? No, I love talking to real Chris.
There we go. And also, like, you look in my background and there's like this weird device there. It's a modular synthesizer, and I think frequently about like you can use that to make all kinds of functions and different types of things that go into music production and sound production. And I think very frequently about like apps like Suno that generate music on the fly based on prompting and everything like that. And you can't prompt away the fun and experience of making music, having conversations, engaging with people. Like, we can't prompt away like the stuff that we enjoy. There's just no replacement for the fun and hours spent on like the things we can put our hands on and touch, and those real life experiences.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I saw your shout out to the Odoo. Am I saying that right? The
Oh,
CRM.
dude, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I
And so
think
I'm
I
on
think you're saying it right.
Yeah. So I'm on Monday and I saw you do that. I was like, "Ooh, that one sounds better." Like I just feel like we're sitting in this world right now of like we're caught in the in between of, there's all this AI that's out there and people are starting to use it and they're starting to apply it to their everyday lives, but there isn't like a good, better, best that's out there fully that says, well, this is your right pathway to agentify yourself. And so, Chris, I'll ask you probably the most thought provoking question I think that was asked at the summit, which was, raise your hand if you believe that traditional therapy will be completely replaced by AI in the next 10 years. And so usually I am like, me, I'm jumping off the deep end. I am like, yes, innovation, I love it, but I struggled with that one. I'm
How
curious on
many
your
hands
thoughts
got
on.
raised?
I would say it was probably 60-40, right? I mean, and there was a bias in the room because like it's all the innovators, it's all the neuroscientists, it's all the people that are like really working on, how do you thoughtfully apply AI into therapy or psychedelics or drug development or device development. I mean, that was the audience, but um, you know, I think they're looking at statistics like 24% of the population is now using ChatGPT for therapy. Don't quote me on that statistic. I think it was the statistic used. I'll go fact check myself.
Hmm.
But like you're looking at that and you're saying, look at this growth of what's happening with GPT-5 and what it's able to do. I mean, are we replacing traditional therapy with AI?
Well, no, I don't think. I really don't think so. Like an entire replacement. Like, I'd rather go talk to this model or that. I don't know. I mean, I'll say it right now. I don't right now have a therapist relationship and all that. But that like there is a network of preferences out there. There are people that in certain moments, this is what I need. I worked for Wobot Health. And I'll say straight up, Wobot, like having a lower barrier to entry to being able to like have a conversation with the chatbot versus being put on a waiting list for 27 to 180 days. Obviously, there's going to be a higher uptick on that digital modality. Like it's just people had easier access to it, but it was still part of an overall journey that included uh, a relationship with the therapist. So different and going beyond a single company, like let's think about people like Dr. Sam Nordberg, who are pioneering things like the precision behavioral health concept. That concept is based on the fact that, hey, there's a network of digital interventions that might work for someone. Also, there is a network of various people and flavors who have different expertise and things like that. And the concept behind precision behavioral health is let's identify what's needed for that person at the moment. Now, Sam will tell you that very often the preferred choice is not the in-person thing like that for whatever reason that might not be the choice or the need that's in the moment. What I want is a network of is for the acknowledgement of that network. No one size fits all, because it doesn't. One size fits all becomes one size fits none. But like let's identify and get people to the right place of a solution that they need. And what I'm really excited about with let's call it AI technology, any kind of enablement, is to think about things outside of just replicating the talk therapy experience. Because like one of the people that I work with at Scan is a music therapist. Her background
Yeah, I
was
love
in music
music
therapy.
therapy. I
Yeah,
love
yeah.
it.
So
Yeah.
we should be thinking about like ways to like things outside of that talk therapy paradigm, and it just like think about all the ways that we can contribute to people's betterment, and have an overlying system like precision behavioral health is one of those concepts that's saying let's just get the right thing to the right person at the right time, be it talk therapy or whatever from this garden of applications that we orchestrate.
Yeah, I'm much more aligned with your vision of that future and maybe Sam's than I think this like almost like stark economic utilitarian theory that like, most everything except for severe mental illness will be replaced by some form of AI. But I can see why people believe it, right? I can see why that there's a thought that it's out there because if you look at it from just a purely we want to make money point of view, anything that's like counseling, coaching, right? You're like, well, we've learned that you can have an AI substitute for it. And so that substitute can work and can drive outcomes. So I just think there are like many versions of the future that could be coming, and it's like exciting to be in the rooms where those versions are discussed.
Yes, yeah, many versions, and there's a philosophy that I'm kind of living is that there's going to be all kinds of approaches. There's going to be all kinds of ways to do things, and I want to expect like open up the network to all those ways rather than trying to impose one standard onto everybody.
Yeah, totally. And that's, I think, just because of like who you are as a human. I think there's a lot of people out there that like could be trying to like capitalize on certain visions of the future, to create venture returns there. And so, there are these misaligned incentives, different incentives that are out there. You'll see different behaviors, right? I mean, you've got these massive companies that are aggregators, many of whom that we help that are saying, I've got to capture more market share to make my investors happy. And so that creates a set of behaviors that, could create good and could create, potential for bad.
Well, let's lean in on the research that we like to share every week. Let's lean in on the stuff that like folks like Sam share around precision behavioral health and what was it, the Peterson Institute. Like when you see interventions that work, you should we should categorize them to is this a replication of talk therapy, is this a music therapy approach, etc. There's all kinds of different approaches that we can keep learning from and iterating on. And I think that there's this tree with all kinds of branches that can and should grow in different directions, and we can find the best of many worlds.
Yeah, I love that. And I think the thing, not to be fatalistic, right? Because I was a little bit sad in some ways. I was like, oh, it would be so sad if, there wasn't humans doing counseling anymore. But I don't think it was that black or white. I think the thing that gave me such hope and actually excitement is just this ability to stay on pace with it, with the development of AI. Like, I think it actually motivated me and even empowered me further to make sure that I understood and was practicing the application of AI, even more so I don't get left behind, right? And I'm getting to be in these rooms.
Yeah, yeah, 100. Talk to me. What is so the agentified self? What's an example of like, hey, we want to I want to agentify myself. What's an example of that,
Oh, Chris, I was
or
gonna
that
ask
you
you
heard
because
in the sauna?
you're more, yeah, so you're more of the expert. Let me tell you, nobody was discussing ideas in the sauna. It was like, people were quiet. They were, following along with the ceremony. They were not spouting out, yes, I love AI. Let me tell you about my latest theory during that moment. But
Mm-hmm.
this idea of agentification um, could be like looking at your business workflow, right? So I'll use my example of like consulting and how do I use Zapier? And I was hoping you could help me with this, where if I have an otter running on a meeting, I'm using Zapier to pull those notes and to-dos into my CRM, or letting my agent send out notes from the meeting back to the client. I could just release the otter, but like then I've not done the work for the client, right? So, what are ways that I might uh, distill some of my ideas? So, I know later we'll talk about like an interview that I did. I think if you went all the way to autonomous Melissa, it wouldn't be Melissa showing up to speak to the Women's Health MBA. I would send my Melissa agent who would just spout out facts, and communicate as a chat GPT with that group. Now, Chris, that's not a vision of the future that I totally want for my business model, but
Mm-hmm.
it was that full spectrum from automating administrative tasks to like actually automating the core of your service offering.
Yeah. Like, come on, like showing up to a conference as an agent, like I know, hey, I know where you're going with that. That's hilarious to me. The I would argue that
I just see you.
some
I, I just see you picturing like my agent hosted this event. Agent Chris Hemphill.
let's see. Yeah, yeah. Sorry, I'm processing here. My slow human brain is going through a bunch of scenarios here. Uh,
Yeah, that's where I was too. Yeah. Yeah, it's like it's
yeah.
an interesting view of the world. But like if you really mapped out all the places where you spent your time and said, Chris, you'd be perfect for this. I'm going to show you what I do every day. And then you're just going to tell me, well, Melissa, you can use these 10 AI tools and, you'll save yourself all this time. And I could be, instead of here recording this podcast, I could be out by my pool while Agent Melissa, has this whole chat with you.
I mean, I'm sure Agent Melissa is super freaking cool, but now my thoughts are a little coalesced. I think that people should think about what feels like a waste of time when you're doing it. Like what feels painful and terrible and like, ugh, I really shouldn't be wasting my time doing this because like there's certain things that like it's repetitive in some way or it's just too taxing and it's getting in the way. And those are good candidates for the types of things that you might want to agentify. Maybe when you're doing this type of work, you're not putting your best into it, or you're finding that you can't put your best into it because maybe it is a problem that that an agent is better equipped to handle. So when thinking about building out workflows that include agents, that's kind of where my mind goes. Like I reference every once in a while this thing that we've been building in the ad tech space, that ultimately this is something that does a lot of tasks that an analyst would do at an agency. It does a lot of these tasks where it's going out to various websites and things like that they use to understand market dynamics, ad spend, and things like that. It's going to and like the types of things that they're trying to figure out, like how to query, what are the best questions to ask, and things like that. What are the best ways to get information about this particular brand, rather than them having to do all that thinking and having to know all these different like nuances of a particular brand. This is doing a lot of that work for them. So that it's giving them lots and lots and lots of hours back in their day to then focus on uh, uh, like instead of the mundane question, how do I access all this data and put it into one place, but the deeper question, how do I take this to a client and identify what the difference is in the market for them. So if it's something that you hate and it feels like that it needs to be done, but it just feels so repetitive, and like you got a little inkling that, hey, maybe there's a better way to do this. I think there's a lot of like opportunity to think about your personal expertise, understanding of the market, understanding of the client's problems and things like that, and think, yeah, how do I automate this, and where might I include agents in that automated pathway? I
Yeah,
would
I
love to do a
totally agree.
full freaking episode on that.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like it's like how successful was I in automating my non-value add work? But I think where some of these innovators are going, Chris, let me just push those limits again, is that they're basically saying not only can you automate the non-value add work for yourself or the work that creates frustration for you, but there are scenarios where you could almost, at least in the space of therapy, automate all of it, right? In a safe, effective way. And so um, I think there's a point of view that those that can successfully apply AI across as much of the the workforce as possible are going to emerge more victorious just because of the way that it impacts the balance sheet, right? I almost liken it to like where we were with the Industrial Revolution, right? Like the factories that could apply machinery were going to be more profitable, more successful than those that were doing everything by hand.
I have a even like working with agents, working with LLM powered
Yeah.
stuff where the LLM is the brain on some of these decisions that are being made. Um, it's led me down a path not of like how do we agentify all the things, but instead how do we build awesome experiences for people or for clients? How do we build an awesome experience, and then there are places where you need to have an agent to solve the problem. But if we start from like that experience layer, like how do we make something awesome? How do we make something great? Then rather than it becoming like how do I agentify all the things, it's more how do I build this thing, and then where and when do I apply agents? Because
I
we
love
did
that.
start down a cool
Yeah, keep
because
going. Go, keep
we
going. Yeah, that's person-centered design, right?
yeah
That's my language. Keep going.
like this, we have an episode coming up that is different than what we're talking about right now. But let me spit for a second.
Okay.
So if you go agent first, here's what might happen. I'm going to go to this browser automation example. When I say browser automation, I mean you're building something that goes across, let's call it X number of websites, and it's looking for information and pulling that all into one place. Well, if you start with the like the best in class agents that are available to crawl the web, if you start there, then what's going to happen is like you'll develop a prompting strategy, like you'll have your goals that it's designed to do, and you'll send it out into the world to collect that. Like we're talking about, like if you need to get something that's exact and precise, and then you build this agent to go out and do it, you're going to see it flop around. It's going to flail around. It's going to be slow. It's going to take a long time to make these decisions. And ultimately, you may or may not get the result you want, but you're going to see a lot of chaos along the way if you think about it from an agent first perspective. But and just real example. We wanted this agent to go crawl this site and get X, Y, Z data points consistently across, let's call it 3,000 companies. We wanted to do that. So seeing it flail around and all that, and seeing the absolute chaos when I said like, well, don't flail in this way. Don't click this button, and you see it's thinking and reasoning process, and it's like, I'm going to click the button anyway. So rather than that, the thing that we were able to get it to be able to crawl across these like thousands of examples in a much shorter amount of time was becoming an expert on on the platform that we were working with, and designing these deterministic. When I say deterministic, I mean it's a step-by-step flow. Like ideally, you want things to be able to go in a predictable step-by-step flow. And then there were points where it would have to make a decision on, well, do I include the chart, the information from this table about household goods, or this table about household services? And in those points, the determinism breaks down. Like, you can't say, well, if this and that, like it was a much more complex scenario than that. So we brought in the agents at those points where there was a decision to be made, where there was something that you didn't have that ability for a deterministic flow. So it was like this marriage of like determinism and traditional design, which is extremely fast when you know what you want, and then you bring in agents when you get to a place where determinism just breaks down. Then it goes back into that determinism flow role. So that's how we were able to like rather than thinking about an agent first, it was experience first, and then where do we need the agents, bring them in, but then get out of there, because you don't want them kind of flailing around doing their random things while there's a very specific task and job you got to get done.
Yeah, and I think if I had any of the protagonists of that conversation coming back, I think they would all kind of lean towards your point of view. I think what they're just saying is we are in stage one, stage two, stage 1.5 of this
Mm-hmm.
agentic evolution. And I think anyone who's got experience with like user-centered design is going to obviously want to apply the agents in the right space. I just think, they see this natural evolution to be fully agentic, right? I mean, like, why stop
Yeah.
with, right? And so that's the piece that just kind of, I guess, still blows my mind a little bit, and I'm like, man, let me just go back to talking about selling to payers, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I
But
felt
like
I
the
felt safe there.
well, here's the mindset to me is like, people look at there's this term called AI, and they look at, oh, if it's AI, that means progress, that means forward, that means advance, that means movement, and non-AI means Luddite, regressive, knucklehead. What machine?
Yeah.
Still talking about machine learning? I want to get people to a place where it's experience first, and then there's like AI is a tool that's available for when determinism breaks down, because determinism super like super fast, predictable, gives you the results that you need. Well, it can give you the results that you need, but then it gets to a certain point where you need that probabilistic approach. Like, it's determinism versus probability, and they have their places where they live in harmony, and we need to find that right balance, rather than like because there are people that will like, given that problem where there's thousands and thousands of companies that needed to be interrogated, they would still be down that, trying to make the agent
Rabbit
perfect for
hole.
it. They'd
Yeah.
still be down that today. Whereas we've
Yeah.
moved on, and yeah. So
We've made our
I want to get people
decision.
to be able to operate at speed. Yes.
Well, should we turn our attention to our next topic? Do you want to introduce it?
Yeah. Let's do it. Let's do it. We're gonna have to go that focused episode design. I can feel it. But yeah, yeah. You were talking about that comfort zone of selling to health plans. that ain't everybody's comfort zone. And you did
No?
no, no. And we're thinking about our Hope Power Healthcare fam here. Like, there's a lot of content out there about selling to health plans, but there's some unique stuff about our audience. Our audience is majority women. It's a lot of mission driven founders. And, this is for people that are building unique things in health tech and are looking for that, like maybe you've got the research part down, but you don't know how to break open those doors. So Melissa did a fabulous, fabulous conversation on selling women's health tech into health plans, and I thought that we thought it would be a good time to just sit down and just focus specifically on that, like these 8 big overarching points on what it means to like on just women's health tech in general, and what it means to make that salient to the organizations that you're trying to sell into to grow your business.
Yeah, and this was like it's another one of those Melissa just stumbles into like the most amazing opportunities ever. So shout out to my friend Catherine Tong, who was like, I was supposed to be at this conference in New York. I can't make it. Do you want to go take my ticket? Right. And so I end up sitting on a stage presenting to a group of women's health innovators. And I met this fabulous woman on my panel. Shout out to Jody Newhouser, who runs this very cool women's mini MBA on women's health. Right. And so she was just kind of asking me if I'd come to her class and just talk a little bit about like working with payers. And so I just kind of spouted off some of my like favorite tips and tricks for working with payers in the context of women's health. And it turned out to be like a really fun moment and, hopefully helpful to those trying to innovate. So, Chris, did you want me to go kind of one by one through some of those points for our audience?
Here's let's do it. Let's do it. And but for the audience that's new, here's why you should be listening to Melissa Reilly. She is a 20-year veteran in organizations like Evernorth, Cigna, Optum Ventures, UHG. So we're talking about being in those positions where we're talking VP and C-suite executive positions where she's evaluating tons of these technologies while at the same time leading venture groups that have been developing and incubating these technologies from these payer lab perspectives. Now, on the other side of that, we're talking what, more than 20 organizations that you're working with right now?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and growing and growing, but like, but
Oh,
it's not just me. I'm so lucky. I'm joined by like the most amazing people in healthcare, including yourself, Chris, that help me on a lot of these accounts, and we kind of do our little stealth model. So, that allows me to have the right time to spend with each of the clients.
yeah, yeah, yeah. We're talking like this. So Melissa is not just a random talking head. Like we're getting into something like we're getting to that prime time territory. So yeah, let's go ahead and go one by one. We can pop these up on the screen. But the first point that was discussed from the article Jody put out is payers manage buckets of money, not just care. What does that mean? Can you get into like what that perspective is that our innovators need to know?
Yeah, so I was trying to simplify like what does a payer do to the audience as I said this. And so the easiest way for me and my simple brain sometimes to think about it is like kind of that concept of capitation, right? But it flows across the board. Like so for whichever channel you're selling into, a payer is consistently looking to say, like, how much money did the employer or CMS or the state give me to be able to manage the care for those humans? And it's not this unlimited bucket, right? And so I think that's why sometimes I get so frustrated when people are angry at payers. Like, I can understand their point of view and their justification personally. Like, I do not mean to be controversial on this, but like, it does come down to sometimes this equation. Like, we only have so much money and we have to spread this money across all the care that people need. So there's elements of utilitarianism that starts to come in. And it's not because payers don't want people to have great care. It's really their job to risk shift or to spread care, to navigate care. And these are all tied back to clinical policy guidelines or coverage decisions, right? So payers can't arbitrarily say, I'm not going to cover this just because I don't like the color shirt you're wearing today, Chris. Like stripes don't, really do it for me. They're
You're
pointing
going
back
in
to
too deep
rules.
now.
Yeah, too deep, right? Did you feel offended? Right? It's
Yes.
very much like rules and regulations that are aligning to how care gets covered. And so my point to the audience was understand first, where your product sits within this bucket or within coverage. And once you can start to line up what you do to what they have to pay for, it brings me to point two, which is be more relevant.
So
Did you have
when
questions
rel
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, yeah. So just to make sure that I understand, it's that we're building we're building technologies and we're proud of them, but when it comes to what it takes to accelerate it within a health plan, we've got to understand what the business is, what they're focused on, and where we fit in their existing set of priorities and strategy.
Yeah, and you even said more simply, do they even cover or care about the thing that you're doing? I mean, start there, right? Because if there's not a way to tie or follow the money for what you do to the bucket of money they're managing, you've already lost the game.
So Melissa, you're saving people time when you say something like that because it gives them the ability to filter. You don't want to spend months and months and months trying to sell people that like you, but their business doesn't fit you. So we can get caught in that trap, right?
We totally, and there's like so many
So
tips and tricks we could go into on targeting, right? How to better target your product to their bucket of money or their problems.
beautiful, beautiful point to start with. And now that we know, hey, we've filtered out the people that don't even have a focus on our problem anyway. When relevance before you sell prevention. What does that moving into that step mean?
Yeah, I started, these tips kind of blend or build on each other a tiny bit, Chris, because,
Hmm.
um, wait, hold on. I'm losing all my connection again. That's so weird. Are you getting uh, anything on your side, Chris?
You're looking good, sounding good.
Okay. This one was when I talk about winning relevance before you sell prevention, this even was very much specifically tailored to the challenges I see in women's health. Both women's health and behavioral health, Chris, for me, have come in and out of fashion inside the orgs of the payers. And so I was really just trying to say, find the person inside the health plan that actually cares about your women's health product. In some places, like in Cigna, there is an owner for women's health. And I don't think all the people who do women's health even know that that's Christine out there. Shout out to Christine. She's amazing, right? And so
Hey, Christine.
um, Christine's going to get a lot of calls after this podcast, but um,
Sorry, Christine.
you but you start going around and a lot of people with like wonderful investors or board members are like, I know the CEO of X, and they make a phone call to the CEO, but like that's not the actual person that is doing this. It's our Christine, right? So go find Christine and find the person that cares about your product. And then the other spin on this is, okay, like let's say your product handles menopause, right? But also has an overlap with diabetes. If diabetes is more, I'm not sure that this product exists. I've just made up this really bad example, Chris. But like if diabetes is more something that's a little bit more cared about at the moment than menopause, well, lead with your diabetes feature and not necessarily your menopause feature. So it's just kind of like a little bit more of knowing your audience and knowing what the priorities are.
And there's also an element that I saw of timing, of where your solution might fit in a patient's lifetime journey, where if your solution is targeted to something that might not be relevant within 20 to 30 years, the plan is going to be less incented to make a decision on it, right?
Yeah, and so I mean, this gets into like back to the bucket of money in point one. Um, there are different time horizons and time windows of when the payer owns the member, right? So some of the biggest challenges you have to worry about is for those kind of upwards in their 60s as they move from a commercial plan to a Medicare plan. Some of my innovators, not all of them, but many of them aren't as fully sconced in what are the difference between commercial or employer and Medicare and Medicaid. Or when you go and you target a Medicaid plan, um, you know, not everyone is covered. There's only a subset of people that actually have coverage, and the MCOs only care about covering those people while they're under their auspices. If they fall off the plan, they can't give them services anymore. And so there's so much in that targeting that needs to be established around coverage and how long the plan actually cares about the person that then ties back to that equation of does that bucket of money follow the member or not. And so many people just aren't familiar with how coverage policy or coverage for an MBO or an MCO actually works.
You had another one. It was relevant to something you were talking about earlier. Find the champion inside. I think that's powerful because you need to have that person who is going to align with your solution. But let's go, what's an example of how someone can find that champion who has that pertinent problem and is willing to guide them throughout an organization?
Yeah, you mentioned someone earlier. I think he's been a really good champion for innovation, and that's our friend Sam Norberg, right? So, like, there are some people inside the payer that really care a lot about innovation. Their job is to look for innovation, and there's others that maybe their job is to look more for cost savings, right? Like a CFO. And so, I think it's so important. Some of the best companies are building relationships across these payers. So many people have built great relationships with me, and I might say, well, I'm not the right person to care about precision behavioral health. That's Sam, right? Or, I'm not the women's health owner. That would be Christine, right? And so understanding who does what and who cares about what inside your payer is so important. One of the things my company does a lot of for our innovators is we make these payer maps and we start to say, like, hey, this is the person that's your champion. You should meet that person if you haven't already. And you don't want to be as a consultant like burning out your network and just making all these introductions. So you have to find a way to tailor what they do to be relevant to that champion. Again, it's like the what's in it for me
That's
or
beautiful.
them.
The I like that map concept. Like you want the right people to be lit up on that map, and you could. It seems like a place where you can look at like, hey, what's the strength of my relationship with this organization based on how well I'm doing with these key players.
Yeah, and it's gotten harder with the terrible things that have happened to some payers, and so it's gotten harder to understand some of who those people are because less about the payers are published out online, and so that's when it gets really important to tell your story in a right way so you can ship your deck over and you can tell the payer why they care, right? Or to go to events. It's so important to go to events and try to meet people. And, what does that do for the person at the payer like me? I mean, I was probably meeting 20 to 50 people at an event. And so I was really looking for a solution or a person that stood out for some reason.
All right, this next one, like we found that champion, it goes into the conversations that we start having with them and what we want to lead, what we want to bring forth first. So lead with their highest cost problems. What about that in the context of women's health?
Yeah, and so like I think you could extend this even beyond women's health, Chris. It's like so many people I think barf their features all over the payer representative. And it's like the analogy I use for the women's health group is that um, there's a lot of different kind of cars that are out on the road, right? So let's say your Camrys are your mild to moderate women's health solutions, and then your, I don't know, your Teslas, although there's a lot of Teslas out on the road, are your women's health solutions that might impact cardiovascular solutions, right? So, what is often challenging for these women health solutions, even though like 50% of the population are women and women are impacted, on those reports that the payers might have for your high cost conditions, it might be something like cardio health or MSK, right? Or behavioral health for a while, even though the claims cost are a little bit lower. So if the payers are out there and they're caring about the Teslas, these high cost problems, and you come in for a women's health problem, you know, you're not going to get the attention. They're out there looking for the Teslas, and you're coming in with a Camry. You're not going to stand out. You're not going to be of interest to them. And so, what I was really trying to say is, make your Camry look like a Tesla. Like, don't just be talking all about your features. Try to orient how your solution then goes back to align to the thing that they care about or to their high cost condition. Because otherwise, unless someone, finds a special place in their heart and is able to champion you through, it's not on their list of priorities for the year.
Yeah, yeah. So it also goes back into that time savings aspect. Look, again, there's people that are going to like you, but if it's not something that's an organizational priority, they're not going to be able to get the traction for you that you need as a champion. So it's very much sounds like let's learn what that traction is and figure out where we identify with their highest cost problems versus just trying to shoehorn and hope that they change strategy based on our awesome PowerPoint that we delivered last Thursday.
Yeah, or your lovely shirt.
So go deeper down the rabbit hole. We have identified those right problems. We identified the champion that we need, but the way that we talk about evidence, ROI, impact, it's got to be in their language.
I know, fam, this is the one that I figured you would be all over, right? Across the board, I am seeing so many translation problems between how payers use language and how startups use language. It's getting better, but like there is like a whole world and whole culture, and they don't always like align. Payers use a ton of acronyms. There's different acronyms at different payers. There's different processes inside different payers. Payers don't do a great job of like publishing their roadmap to actually working with them. And so my advice on this one is start to speak like them, right? So, if they call, if they're like, oh, my credentialing CVO is this and you have to do this, like learn their language because you're going to move faster if you start speaking in their tongue. And you can start to take, your proms and tailor it to the proms that they're really caring about, whether it's ER avoidance, right? And they're calling it avoidable ER readmissions. Like start using their words because you just sound more like them and you're easier to get through their processes.
I want to give two examples of things that have helped me better learn the language of the payer world. I think we bring him up literally every week. Is Dr. Eric Bricker. You'd better get on. Like if you're not familiar with healthcare finance terms and things like that, he's got that experience and background deep. He's probably the most content coming out related to that payer language, and literally you're learning about the payer landscape, but who else is learning about it from him? The payers. He's got his audience includes people from like Optum, UHG, and things like that. They're watching that so that they can understand their convoluted world too. So Eric Bricker, and then there's Stacy Richter of the Relentless Health Value podcast. Have you heard of her? Have you heard of Stacy?
No, but we should post up that link. Yeah. I don't spend a lot of time learning payer terms because like I crossed so many of them. I thought I knew most of them. Yeah. But I love this, right? I mean, I am so on board with this, right? And I think I don't know that I'm always the best teacher. I try to be a really good teacher around like these different terms. I do like how he teaches a lot of the concepts. I think that's great.
Yeah, you can go deep with him on that, and then Relentless Health Value is it's like an interview style podcast where she's talking to leaders who are doing things mainly in the value based care space and health plan space. You go through her list of episodes and you hear from CEOs of health plans that are directly discussing their problems in their language and context. You hear from various other types of innovators too. I think the one that got me hooked in was hearing from the CEO of Ochsner Health down in Louisiana on their value-based care initiatives. Fabulous place to like really get a deep empathy and understanding that's going to translate back into the way that you communicate about your business.
Yeah, post it up, fam. I love that. It's gonna be so
Yeah,
good.
yeah. Stacy, come hop on an episode with us, Stacy, if you ever if you hear this. Okay. What there's another one. Use price transparency to your advantage. What, price transparency? Let's talk about that.
Oh, do you know how much I brag on you, Chris, about this? I have told more people about the machine readable files and your ability to untangle them. And so I'm just bragging on you on that one because, again, I think there is a competitive advantage that can be out there if you know how to unlock these files. If you can look and say, for my specific CPT code, here's what others are getting paid, and they're out there, so people just use them. Fine, call Chris and have Chris help you use these files.
Let's just like it, so it's not an ad for my ability or whatever. Um, yeah, they're in 2024. They're what we might be familiar with pricing transparency, where hospitals made their charge master their charge prices available, but that was like met with like such little enthusiasm because like the charge price isn't what the end consumers pay. So in 2024, there was an initiative to get this payer transparency level, where now the level of transparency goes all the way to what is the negotiated rate between this payer, this health plan, and this particular provider across various markets and geographies. So that stuff is exposed, but in a difficult to work with way. But it is powerful to now think about where that price, like the types of things that price transparency can communicate and assist with, in better understanding how your solution is going to impact these payer bottom lines.
Yep, and I see many people going to companies to buy them, and that's fine. That's one option. Good for you. Go get your competitive rate data set. But I just think it's so important, like if you don't have any competitive rates, to go and get them, right? Because you can't price yourself out of the market.
Beautiful, and that taps into like the forefront. The forefront doesn't necessarily have to be like an agent did this. The forefront could be this is data that we never had before.
Right.
Point solution trap. What is the point solution trap?
Oh my goodness, the point solution trap. So I always say the point solution trap is um, when digital health exploded, you saw the arise of all these different companies. I think now payers, and many people talk about this, have point solution fatigue, which is they've made contracts with 15 to 400 different groups doing different things, but they can't leverage all of them. And so I'm definitely saying right now, providers who can connect to others and bring the payers multiple solutions in one are more advantageous, or even more advantageous is when a vendor or provider is able to connect dots across categories and then position themselves as having multiple impact, right? So not only have you bundled, but you've bundled and you've done the math for the payer. It just makes you infinitely more valuable. And so in women's health, I'm really encouraging, since there's less attention put on women's health than like MSK or cardio, collaborate, combine, offer a full spectrum solution so you have a better chance of making it through that slog in payer land.
So they have this network of solutions. They're tired of adding vendor after vendor after vendor. So it's a matter of how do we move? How do we position ourselves as a solution to multiple problems rather than this one login that's going to exist in and collect dust because there's not going to be that adoption because doctors don't want to jump onto one more out of 700 systems.
Exactly. And yes, and collaborate, combined, find like-minded others, right? There is power in numbers. You can bring your rates up, you can aggregate, right? You are more valuable as a comprehensive solution than a single solution.
So when you say collaborate, you're saying they might have a platform that they're interacting with, and maybe you don't know the founder there or CTO of that platform, but you're opening a door for them and for you by saying, hey, you already have this relationship. How about we partner, joint venture, and create a way for you to like you've landed. Here's your expand strategy.
Yeah, I see a lot of people starting to collaborate now. I'm really cheering for it. I think there is a window of this, and I think, there are going to be some groups that really start to collaborate and do very well. I think others are going to start to be left behind as like winners emerge in the space, or, others run out of money.
I will take that. Again, I don't like going and saying, "Hey, you must be doing this, or you're going to be left behind." When it comes to technology, but when it comes to collaboration and the way of doing business, I really do see a future of like, hey, maybe we do build a point solution, but if we can align that with a platform that already exists, like there's a bigger boat that we can hitch ourselves onto rather than trying to replicate that big boat, then we create advantages for everybody.
Exactly. And then the final piece, I, despite AI, despite all these advances, I am like stock up for the winter, right? So prepare for you when you, from the time you first meet a payer to hopefully when you get a contract, it could be 18 months. Even the ones I
Mm.
see that are going fast are still like 6 months to get through contracting, credentialing, BAAs, NDAs, this form, that form, just the stakeholder melee that happens inside payers, or, oh, it's time to do quarter close or, do our MBR. So we got to wait until next month. I'm basically telling all founders, be resilient, work on your fitness, just be prepared that when you go to work with a payer, it's going to take a long time and you need to be prepared for that length of journey.
So I have a question about this 18-month marathon. I was having a conversation with someone. I was having I said, hey, it feels like a lot of people might want to that they're exclusively pursuing the whale, but they're not that like they're trying to put the whale into an empty pool. They don't have anything that they are building a platform on. So it's a question that I have, which is while they're out there pursuing these big 18-month deals, should there be a focus on like smaller deals, like SMB opportunities or the like to kind of keep the keep some sort of financial stability while growing in and being able to get out to the big deals too?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of that creativity. So like a person that wants a whale goes to provider groups or they go direct to consumer or they go other places to get revenue in the door, especially provider. There's a lot of work of people going to a provider who might have the ability to buy something off cycle versus in the commercial space you might be um, in a procurement process or if we talked about state governments, you're waiting for a RFP to be issued or CMS has bid windows, so like um, there is uh, ceremonies in each of these channels that are going to create a length of time where there are end rounds to be making money while you're waiting for those whales to be caught. So I really love that thought and that strategy, Chris. I think the challenge is especially if you're venture backed, some people can be like, oh, you've got diluted focus. If you're trying to hit all these three channels, you're not truly focused on getting that whale. But I'm a big fan of placing bets in multiple channels because, you know, something weird can happen and someone could get a new job and then your initiative is done when you're whale hunting. So I like having a plan and a backup plan and a backup plan to the backup plan when you're whale hunting.
What? So you don't say just throw it all on black?
I mean, I might do that personally, but not. My experience has told me never to do that in the health plan journey.
Thank you for that. You got to be prepared for that 18-month marathon, and it just leads to all kinds of different things in terms of your marketing strategy and outreach, how you measure your success, how you measure your sales team's success. It's off of a different dynamic than a lot of VCs are used to. So there definitely is some tension in figuring out that strategy.
Yeah, I think working with payers is one of the hardest things still in the industry. I mean, it's very, very challenging. When it works and when you're in partnership or in your in pilot construct, I've seen like beautiful things happen. But like the work to get yourself well positioned to do that is really, really hard. You need to have a great story. You need to have a great team. You need to be translating the payer. You need to be really focused and you need to be resilient. And doing all those things at once is really challenging.
Y'all, you can't do it alone. Obviously, there's got to be collaboration happening. There's a little bit of collaboration, a little bit of thinking going on in our Discord. Hop on there. You got questions about this overall strategy or approaches. It's a very informal place. Just throw your questions, thoughts, stories out there, and that's just one-on-one chit chat, back and forth conversation, and you'll hear from other people who are also building.
Yeah, and you know we
With
didn't put our
that,
AI
oh
agents in there, right, Chris? Our AI is still us. It's
yeah, you
unfiltered Chris and Melissa. It's not the agents. We
you
don't
will
have
de-
those yet.
yeah, the agent doesn't know that, like, the other day I was walking down the street and I saw this man setting up a tent, and he had a big grill by it, and I said, "Hey man, what you doing?" And he said, "Hey, I'm selling hot dogs out here." The agent doesn't capture like what's happening on day to day, like that type of stuff that we can bring into the experience and conversation.
Yeah,
So
it didn't know that I
not
lost.
today, not today.
Yeah, it didn't know that I lost 20 pounds of sweat yesterday in the sweat lodge, right? And cannot, bring that experience to the fam.
So yeah, in the next 4 years, when the spyware gets deeper, maybe it will know. But for now, there's us. We can talk to you.
Amazing.
With So we've talked about the relaxation and fuel and everything like that, but we got to get into the pop culture. What's your pop culture of the week?
Oh, fam. I have been loving the New Heights podcast. Shout out to Travis and Taylor, where they announce her new album. That podcast was full of Easter eggs. It gave me hope for the new music. I was just loving it. Like, it was great. And I posted this up on my Instagram. I should have thrown it in the Discord. I loved what Taylor said around not everyone can tolerate your energy, right? And so you need to think of your energy and your attention as this luxury item and just be careful in who you share it with.
That's a great example. Like, we people got to know. Sometimes people feel like they're too much for certain people, and maybe you are. Maybe there's a disconnect there, and yeah, you can acknowledge it and kind of like, "Ah, I'm going to bow out of that. Like, approach this person in a different way." But at the same time, you got to find your people that do tolerate your energy and what you bring to the table. Thank you for being one of those people for me, Melissa. Like, I know I'm not
Ah,
everybody's cup of tea.
oh, how could they not adore you? And I think I aspire for our podcast to get as many hits as, New Heights did, but I loved their dynamic. It was so cute. Like I was like, you could obviously tell that that man had fallen so hard for that woman, and he just felt so lucky to be in her ecosystem. I just loved watching that.
Two 100% freaking cool.
Yeah. What
And I
about
guess
you? What's your
oh,
what's your pop culture moment for the week?
I was talking with our producer Alyssa earlier, and I just got to say, the joy of being on a road trip, because I'm going to be, I think I'm going to drive down from Detroit to Atlanta in the next couple of weeks for a conference. And on the way, I'm going to stop at every Buc-ee's that I can, because like I load up on the most delicious food there. It's crazy. But yeah, whenever road tripping, I just love going to Buc-ee's because I know the bathrooms are on point, and the brisket is like
Bucky's, brisket,
So
and
I
bathrooms. Who's better than you, Chris? Like,
exactly. Like my standards are very high. But yeah, my pop culture thing, because like there's a big probability that you probably see a bunch of those, like depending on where you live in the country, you see a bunch of those billboards coming up. Like if you're in the southeast and all that, and you're doing any kind of road tripping or traveling, 100% advocate going and experiencing the craziness and deliciousness that is Bucky's. Thank you for your paid sponsorship, Bucky's. Actually, that doesn't exist.
shout out Bucky's. Shout out Bucky's for letting Chris visit you.
Yes.
On that note of joy, thanks to the fam for joining us on this amazing exploration of the future of AI and some rules for dealing with payers or leveraging payers or working with payers. I'm unclear.
Thank you so much. Yes, working with payers, and there's a landscape. There's all kinds of different things that you have to navigate. Like we know what your real goal is. We know your goal is advancing healthcare, making things affordable, making the right types of care more accessible. But like there's a system that we're playing in right now, and part of this is just getting together and saying, hey, how do we navigate the best within that system? How do we get our how do we play our part in raising health equity, giving the tools that we have today? So thank you for
And
being along with us. And
yeah, and
go
just
ahead, you
making
had
sure we
some.
keep innovation alive, right? And that's our biggest goal is the innovators keep innovating.
Yes, yeah. So we're glad to be that fuel for you. And with that, we're going to see you next time.